Okay, sorry for the little technical delays we're having. This is the first time I've actually run the meeting from the 12th Street office using all of a mobile setup. But what I wanted to go over today was our get back on the Hill plan and then another document that I call the one to many relationship. Um, got some more folks that's coming in. And since we're recording this, I'll be able to transfer the document into a YouTube and send it out so you guys can actually see the presentation. Fred Blair just joined us, so we're looking good now. Hey, Fred, we just started. Yeah, we've been having some tech problems. Apparently, they can't see the presentations going on, but since we're recording it, they'll be able to see it from here. Okay. So you guys just kind of bear with me. That's one of the things we gotta always kind of have to deal with. Um, so the first thing I want to talk about is I can kind of give you guys a report on what we already have kind of going from our last meeting, and we had a few action items I wanted to actually go over. And pretty much, one of the biggest things was for me to ask the pastor some of our immediate priorities, and one of the biggest thing that came out of that was to get our audio visual system accounted for from a vendor's perspective. So, to make a long story short, there was a limited amount of requirements that were given to the audio visual vendor. The name of the company was Comlink. So we had to go back with the video team, the audio team, the band, and the musicians to kind of get some requirements. So we developed a document called a POAM, Plan of Action of Milestones. We had about 26 major action items on this POAM document, and I'll bring it up so you guys will be able to see it, and I'll also send this out. But it is a draft copy. Um, Hope you guys can see what's going on. We put it in a Microsoft Excel format, and these were some of the actual POAM items that came out of our meeting. So this is a pretty large form, Troy, and I just kind of I'll send. You've been on some of the emails for it. So for one of the for as an example, we have what's called an identifier. An identifier one was called Emory AV001 audio visual is what's called a focus item. Another item, and I won't read all of that. I'll just go through this first line item to kind of give you guys a general idea of what we've been dealing with. The next is called type, and it's called requirement from the customer. So the customer is us, the church. And one of the things was the main screen should be situated in front of the main sanctuary where it can be easily seen by parishioners. The screen should be retractable with the capability of being lowered into a place for viewing via control console or console. Sorry about that. I had my antivirus software just kick in. I tell you, these things just pop up out of nowhere. They like the IRS. They just grab you like they want attention too. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, they like the IRS. So I had to say that because it's tax time. Anyway, I digress. So the screen should be retractable with the capability of being lowered into place for viewing via control console or control unit, easily accessible from the audio-visual control room. The screen should have a coverage size that promotes ease of view from any location within the sanctuary. And what this is we're trying to follow a methodology called Agile or Safe Agile, where we as a customer will write very short user stories, and then it's up to the vendor to actually look at our user stories and provide a solution for the problem that we have. So if we go on a little further with this document, let's see, we have another item, the POC being the visual team, and there's another section in there we call supporting resources. One of the supporting resources for this particular, we just had Denise Boone join us here at the office. Hello. Beautiful smile as always. Thank you, Denise, for showing up and coming and helping us out. But one of the supporting resources is electrical diagrams and lead electrical project manager for coordination of the power pathways and signal wiring for systems control of the audiovisual system. Basically, in a nutshell, what that means is that when these main screen systems are put in the sanctuary, the vendor that is in charge of the audiovisual portion of it has to get in line with the electricians and the building, the actual building team that's putting it up. The problem that we're having now is that I sent the audiovisual guys a picture of the ceiling, and the ceiling at the very top, they're going to put all of the HVAC. So all the HVAC is going to go in the ceiling. So their proposal was to come up with some poles that are going to be the actual projector cameras, the long throw projector cameras were going to be mounted on these poles, and they don't have the room for it. So that's why it's imperative for the vendor to get in there now while the building is being constructed, so they can see what's going on. So that's one of the line items that they're going to have to deal with. Another perspective is something called a dependency story, the placement of the retractable mics if we're going to use it. So if this uh, camera screen is going to go up and down, and then there might be another instance where they want to have microphones that actually travel up and down too. That's going to be a dependency as far as the power, as far as the spacing, and all of the associated equipment, the electrical motors that will have to be mounted in the ceiling. So that's another line item that the vendor is going to have to look for and deal with. So basically, this is we have what's called a risk story, the risks that are involved with this particular line item. We have what's called an estimated cost. We have a start date, when they plan to start the work, an end date, and then the status. And then we have what's called customer questions. The biggest question that we have, so when I was assigned this particular task, it was kind of like a rush order because I was thinking that there was another team that was just kind of putting this stuff together, but we're kind of finding out they got some really high level requirements and they really didn't put the word out. So it's almost like, okay, guys, put this phone inside of your pocket, and then they left it at that. Where what kind of phone is it? Which pocket do you want the phone to be put in? How long do you want us to keep it there? So those are all of the requirements. So we had to go back to the customer, and one of the things is that have these items already been purchased? So we don't know. Um, if so, what's the make, the model, the year what year group did it come out of? All of the associated um, information that we would have to have, because once they put a retractable ceiling in there, they got to train us on how to use the thing too. So if they already have like an owner's manual or something like that, we need to have that in-house now so we can start training for it. So to make again a long, I can't go through all of these. I just want to give you guys a high level briefing. We have approximately, let's see, as an example, we have 26 issues that the vendor is going to have to deal with. And once they answer all of the questions, the vendor is supposed to come back to us what's called a customer requirements document. They put the customer requirements document together and they say, Emory Church, is this what you want? And this is our solution of how we plan to get there. From that document, we sign off on it, and then they create another document called a systems requirement. So let's use the retractable screen as an example. We know it has to have a motor. We know it has to have power in the ceiling. How much does it weigh? So now the building team is going to have to be able to build a support stanchion that's going to hold the weight. They have to have, it has to be put in a place where it won't come off the ceiling and hurt anybody. So there's a lot of liability, and we don't want any parts of it. That's why we don't want to tell them, well, you need to put a bolt here, bolt there. We have our requirements in the user story, and then let them figure it out, and then they give us back, and then it's like, okay, once we sign off on it, they are liable for the safety, for the operation, for the training. So that kind of takes the burden off of us.
So the operation will be taken out of our hands. We won't be operating if we need leaving that remote.
Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that like once, let's say that they've mounted it, we are not going to tell them how to mount it.
Right. No.
We just give them the general requirements. Right. When it's
we actually operate.
Right.
Is there another thing in there that would say if the motor jams or something, could it be manual?
That would be part of the systems requirement. So we're going from anything that we would have from how the thing is going to go up in the ceiling and come back down. But that's just some of the various issues that we're going to have to deal with. I'll give you another crazy example of
the lighting. Taking into account the lighting once because we haven't gotten the windows.
Yeah, there is a requirement. Let's see, there was a requirement in here for lighting, but I don't know if the church has the enough funding for like serious stage lighting with Fresnel lenses. Those things start at $1 million a pop. So I don't know if they have the
I'm
funding
just on the
for it.
reflection of the light on the screen.
That's a great question. And there was I'll show you, bring up another example of that. Where is it at? Number Wi-Fi. Primary, should alarm, should install. Light, here's a lighting control one. There was a requirement in there about the long throw cameras, and we made it where they have to install what's called a long throw camera. Mm-hmm. Now, like if you notice, you remember how the old church was set up.
Yeah.
In the old church, we had cameras that had a luminous factor of about, it might have been about 3,000 looms, what they call it. When the sun came through, you could not see the camera. So we put a requirement in, and this is where the requirements and everything gets a little crazy. We put a requirement in there, and I did some research to put what's called a long throw camera. Because again, if they put the cameras in the ceiling, then we have to figure out a way. If it breaks, so we got to replace the bulb, we got to get up there and fix it ourselves. So if they put a long throw camera in the back of the pulpit, in the back of where the main door near the balcony, the average price for those cameras start. You ready for this? Oh no. I saw one for $179,000. It had a luminous factor of 20,000. So that's the type of camera that they would put movie theater. Yeah, that's what that's for. So we have to be really careful. Like the vendor could say, "Oh yeah, you need this camera."
There's money to that.
They put one in there, and we have a luminous factor. Like this one is probably 3,000. So if the light comes on, we won't be able to see it from the pulpit. Or from any perspective inside of in the church. So we have to be really mindful of once we give them requirements. So we're thinking that. A long throw camera, these long throw cameras may not be the solution that we need. We may have to go with a flat screen, like a huge one.
Quick question. Mm-hmm. Initially they were talking about projecting on the walls. Have they moved away from that?
I think they've moved away from projecting on the walls because what I was, and I did see a diagram, and I can send that out. That's one of the reasons why I was asking for a lot of drawing packages, because I wanted to see what they're doing. They had they had a primary screen in the front, and they had two more screens on the flanks. They were kind of like at an oblique angle. and it was supposed to be a screen there, and then they had two more screens in the back, so from the pulpit you could see what's going on. The issue with that is we got 5 poles hanging in the ceiling, and then if they put the HVAC on top of that, and then they run the signal on the power cables, and probably what they'll do, they're going to save time and run them in the same conduit. Well, the problem with that is you're going to get the crackling sound and all of these different issues with electrical connection, because when you put a power cable right here and a signal cable and you put them in close proximity, they have what's called it's like an inductance reactance where it acts like a magnet, and it just messes everything up. So the vendor, when we state that, and we actually stated that in some of these requirements, they're going to look at it and like, oh wow. And I think, and that's why it's taken them so long to respond to us, because if what is it? What is that Sims commercial? The educated consumer. Well, we had to get educated on everything they were doing, because they can come up with anything, put it in there. Oh yeah, they cut it on, it works. And next thing you know, hour, 2 hour, week, or a few weeks later, we cut it on and we start getting all kinds of distortions, and we don't want to have that going on. So that's going to be another problem that we have to kind of review with the soundboard system. That's another thing. So
And we had with
You want some
the
cold
lights.
water, John Davis?
yeah, this is hot.
No, I think I'm passing forward.
I'm right up to it.
Yeah, I'm a candidate for bathroom call.
Over there. So that's just some of the issues. Like, I want to find that one about. Yes.
Hi, this is Mashonda. Quick question for you.
Okay.
One is, I have a 26 shares. I think it's 26. Are they prioritized, or is there exercise with prioritized in terms of how they rest the requirements?
The require the requirements are. Or did you? Oh, go ahead. I didn't hear
Yes,
it.
I know that, but just in terms of the issues, are they prioritized? You know what I mean? Because one usually has impact over another. And my second question is, in terms of the different solutions maybe that are options initially for the church, was there, and I'm asking because I can't see the presentation at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any pros and cons with the various solutions that were presented, or things that you thought was one? Were those shared with leadership?
That is a great question, and that was one of the things that I was actually asking that same question, because I don't know how this vendor was selected. I was just given a point of contact to work with them. So as far as the pros and cons, that's one of the things that's in this is called a trade study. And once I send this sheet out to everybody, they'll see it. It's called a trade study. The trade study basically takes all of the criteria for a particular vendor, and it weighs it from a scale of like 1 to 5. If you get straight 5s, and then when you look on the back of the trade study scale, you see a deflection from the little graph that, hey, vendor number 1 is the best choice. So we never got a chance to actually do that. Part of the systems requirements, since we're kind of using this whole requirements gathering, using the user stories and the safe agile method, from a pure project management perspective, we really are not prioritizing how they should go about, because again, they have to surprise us with their ingenuity. So that won't be our job, because if we did that, then they would say, well, the Emory folks told us to do that, and now the system doesn't work. We want to put all of the engineering and managerial perspective of anything dealing with the church in their hands, because that's what they're being paid to do. We just have to sign off on it. Yeah. So
They prioritize, but is timeline and cost. Because they're a vendor, they can tell us anything, and this can go on, and the cost will continue to escalate.
Exactly.
So if it's cost of the vendor, then the vendor needs to provide some sort of prioritization how they prioritize? Why? What's the rationale? How they are connected to get us to that end date, to
Exactly.
that result.
Yeah, and that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, but that for me, that's what I keep thinking, like, how they connecting to that to get to that completion.
Now you
It's up to them.
now you see why I asked you to join the board. Because we need that PM mindset on our side so we can figure that out. But no, as far as the base requirements that we wrote up, we did not prioritize them because again, they have to let us know. And for instance, like they before they put a projector up, they're going to have to square their solution off with the electricians and also with the building support folks. So we don't know. We know that their requirements have to be prioritized, but that will come out with the systems requirements document. I think that's what we're trying to gear them to actually produce. So I've hit those folks up a couple of times last week, and then I'll shoot them a couple more emails this week. And the pastor has also been in communications with them, but I'm thinking that we might have stumped them a little bit because they got to really get their stuff squared away on their end because we started to ask some more tougher questions, and they're going to have to come up with a good package. Yeah, so that's why it was like this whole thing with the audio visual system. That's why it was such a high priority. It's like, hey, we need to get this thing squared away because I think they was kind of dragging it out a little bit, and we gotta kind of speed them up. But not only that, we gotta get them to produce the type of uh, support that we're looking for because they can put anything up there. If we sign off on it, it's our fault. So we just got to give them some tough questions. Okay, but again, I'll uh, once I start, you got this information is on the website, and I'll make sure that I'll put it, I'll update it because there's certain parts of the website where it's kind of like closed off for now because we're still working on some documentation in here. But I'll post this to the main area where you guys can take a look at it. And of course, please provide as much feedback and information that you possibly can, because again, this is something. Once this audiovisual system goes up, this is going to be something that's in our job that we really have to take care of. So that's again, we have 26 poem items, and I think we kind of went through all of. At the end of it, there's something called the customer requirements questions, and then we have what's called vendor comments, vendor requirements, and then there's system requirements information. So one of the crazy things that happened, they wanted to talk to me on the phone with a conference call, and it's pretty much impossible for me to do conference calls during the mid part of the day. And I told them, I said, if you have any questions or comments, just put it in those sections and send it back. So that's what we're waiting for right now. Because if we use the old phone method of communication with these people, and they can say, well, Mike said this and Mike said that, and Mike didn't say anything. But if they write the questions down, then we kind of got them, and that's what we want to do. I mean, we're not trying to, tick these folks off, but we're spending a lot of money and a lot of people are counting on us to come through with this because when that center is up and operational, we're going to have every person in this city using those facilities for something. So we want to give them, a state-of-the-art system for a good price. And I hope that makes sense. So, but that's it for that particular priority. The next priority was getting back on the hill, so we'll go over that in a little more detail later. So, does anybody have any questions on the poem stuff? Again, right now we're not at a holding pattern, but we are waiting for feedback from the vendor. So that's what's going on now. So the next, go ahead, Mr. John.
I just to with this now. I just later on the year coming in.
Can you all speak up a little bit, please?
And I was just addressing the fire side of it, and as far as which got tied into some of the security. Because, I was saying, what do we have coming up for maintaining the fire?
The fire control?
I mean, stadium.
Well,
In case of, I know everything is set up for pool station and all that, but including with people that are in the church, I know we're gonna also do drills on.
we're gonna have
We
to.
do drills on, but it's like the other schools that I don't want to get into that now because that's coming up later.
Actually, that's a good question because when I went through the walkthrough, I did a walkthrough last week. Yeah, it was last week, last Thursday, and I asked the builder. I said, "Hey, I was asking questions about the fire control system and about the zoning," and he said, "If one group goes off, the entire complex
That's
goes
what I was
off."
expecting last time, last meeting.
Yeah, so
It
that's
wasn't have independent system.
that's going to be a big problem.
It is, because if something happened over in the other unit,
Right.
we could turn out the church.
We have to evacuate the church,
We're gonna have to do it.
and we have to do it because it's cold. Yeah, and I was thinking even a more crazier act. What if we're having a memorial service, a funeral for somebody, and somebody inside of their apartment is cooking some eggs and burns it, and the alarm system goes off. We got to evacuate. Can you imagine the?
Because probably the sprinkler system is tied in all the way there. I don't know. But
Yeah.
if they got it tied in, they got it tied into the wrong system. The system that won't work.
And the other thing is like all of the power conduits, the whole complex is about 10,000 amps, so it's very powerful. A lot of power going in there. All the fire control, the fire enunciation system, the pumping station, the water, everything is coming up in one trunk in the same area. So
On the other thing that I can think of is that during an event like that, including service, someone on a team have to be there monitoring that system, or at least be there to control somewhere around it. Something is going to indicate that, I mean, a group, some of them could go in there and just pull the alarm just to get the people moving out. This happened already at the school.
okay,
What I was saying is that would we hire or would we have someone to look into whether or not the system is operating at the time? The engineer would. Too often, we rely on just what was put in and don't.
again, don't look at it.
The system is happen to be having been checked and like it's supposed to.
And that goes with well, we can. I think when you see our one to many relationship, some of your concerns might be addressed there. Yeah, but that's a good. I mean, I've been thinking about that too. That's a really important thing that we might have to. You might have to take that up as an action item too to find that out. Because again, that's why one of the things is I'm trying to be able to. We're trying to be able to put all of those questions and answers like in one big lump package, and so we can review it because we're going to have to come up with a lot of procedures and contingency plans for stuff like that. And yeah, so that's going to be a huge thing. So we got a lot of work to do from the board perspective. But yeah, but so that was basically, and this thing is still recording, so you guys will see it. You guys will see the recording on YouTube. I'll send it out after our meeting. So the other issue that we're looking for, and we'll get right into the what I call the one to many relationship. And what this is just basically we've broken our trustee board into one of the three primary departments. One being operations, the other one being engineering, and the next one being, this is Fred's favorite, logistics. So they're all very, very important departments. And I was saying that the reason why, I wanted to, I was talking with a couple of the folks and said we kind of need to break this thing up into tangible sections. So I can't even see that. This is red. I'll take the colors off so you can see it a little bit. How's that? Okay. A lot better. More better blues. So, and the reason why it's red, this red, gold, and blue, and it's kind of a crazy reason why I put it those colors, because if you look at Star Trek like I do, operations is red, engineering is gold, and medical pork chop stuff, logistics is always blue. So it's a color code. There's some sanity to my madness. But trustee operations is the largest area that we have to kind of deal with. Sounds like somebody's checking in.
Hi, Audrey.
Hey Audrey, how's it going? We're just talking about we're talking about you as far as operations. And I still owe you a phone call. I still owe you a phone call as well.
I
I
know.
haven't forgotten. So, but and we're going over the one to many relationship right now. So, did you hear me? Oh, okay. So if we look at our operations, we have what's called trustee operations, and we go down the list and you see roadmap, junior trustee, business flow, and then summary of duties, kind of more like just a quick statement of what we're kind of looking for. So a trustee roadmap, boom, should consist of dates and milestones of important tasks that affect churchwide operations. So that's basically a decent calendar, but our calendar has to touch all of the ministries because all of the ministries are going to be dependent upon our building and everything that's in it from the church's perspective. So we're going to have to, and I think we had that meeting. I couldn't attend. Fred, you and Tim went to the planning meeting.
Yes.
So it's that planning meeting. So basically, all the ministries are in the process of finalizing their schedule throughout the year. And our roadmap is this basically, if another group needs to use the gym or another group needs to use the multi-purpose room or the kitchen or something, that we have to be involved in that chain of information flow. So that's where our roadmap is like, where do we want the ministries to take us? And we're going to kind of tail along with that.
And it has to be flexible.
Very, very flexible. So we're actually in the process of putting a facilities request document in, and I can kind of go over that in more detail with everybody at a later meeting. Because there's so much stuff to cover in a little bit of time that we have. That's one of the reasons why, we built this, want to build this website so you guys can, in the morning you can kind of go through it, when you get some free time, and then just ask questions. You can use it for communication too. It's like, hey, well, I got a question about A, B, C, or D. So that's what this is about. So I won't go all the way through this list because there is a lot of them. But if you notice, you see this little TO1, that's trustee operations number one, trustee operations number two, and so on and so forth. So we got the bright idea of bringing in junior trustees, and these are basically uh, high school seniors to young adults in college to actually come on the board, serve the same exact functions that we have. So we're kind of building a process where, Fred hits the lottery and he says, Wayne, I'm rich man, I'll see you later. And he built his own church somewhere, in Giant Stadium or wherever the Giants play.
FedEx Field.
FedEx Field, yeah. So when he rolls out, we'll have somebody, hopefully, that can pick up that, not the slack, but can kind of pick up. But it's good to have more youth involved in what we're doing to keep them focused and keep them moving. Yeah. Business flow process, project managers. This is where LaShonda would, kind of come in and help us out. So these line items under the trustee operations are the individual divisions. So just think of these this is the operations department, and these are the divisions or key areas. So we have incident reporting, we have minutes and notes, rules of order, the sexton operation. That's Mike, since you are the liaison officer, this would be, one of your biggest concerns and things like that, because you're going to get mad because I want to drill a hole in this table so I can mount this thing permanently. So you would, I have to make sure that you approve of my work. So this is one of those things that, in choice, that I can drill a hole in it. This is going to be a small one, just a teeny hole, so I can, so we can make it look cool. All of this wire is just driving me nuts. So that's what that's for. Trade study. Now, trade study, this is one of the things that I'm thinking that throughout the course of us moving into the church, and let's say at year 1 or year 2, I guarantee you that there are going to be organizations or other ministries that are going to want to change something. And we're going to have the ability to analyze what they have. We need the ability to make certain that we pick the best vendor. So that's where the trade study comes into. So more or less, we narrow it to a scope of, 3 to 5 different vendors or 3 to 5 different solutions to solve a problem that a ministry might have. So this is going to be very important to every type of operation. So again, if you see this, that's trustee operations number 13. And when I slide over to the engineering and the logistics department, you'll see how these numbers actually come together. SharePoint site, okay, that's something that Fred is going to take over because I'm tired of, no, I'm not tired of them, but something SharePoint site. So you guys are looking at the SharePoint site right now. So the next thing under operations is what's called external operations. These are operations external to the church. So we're talking parking, we're talking recycling, snow removal, trash removal, painting, cleaning, big things, stormwater management. And the reason why stormwater management is probably a very important item because we had to go through so many hoops to get the church built the way it is. And I guarantee you that the city and all of the groups that have been hating are going to come up with all kinds of stuff. They're going to say, you see, that church is putting out all kinds of bad chemicals. We're putting fertilizer down. We as a trustee board, we got to be really mindful of all of that stuff. There's some things that people may not think of.
Always,
Yeah.
stay on top of the garage.
Mm-hmm.
Because parking is the thing. Some of them have leaking oil, some of them have gasoline, overfill the tank.
Right.
So those things are environmental problems that just don't wash down the
The environmental problem will shut us down.
And then, so you want to stay on top of that.
Yeah. So that's where external cleaning, exterior grounds, stairwells, walkways, planters, any artwork that we put out there, it has to be, we have to, again, should consist of governance procedures for the upkeep of external artwork and signs, anything, any kind of signs that we, share with the general public. We don't want to offend anyone because, again, somebody may say, they have that sign up there and it's not being A, B, or C, or D. Well, I feel offended because it's up there. We got to be mindful of things like that. Pest control. We don't want any crazy rats and dogs and everything else. But this is the city, so those are some things we might have to deal with. Lawn care, light damage response. If there's something broke, we got to fix it immediately. Heavy damage, it could be somebody parking a car and hit a column or something like that that caused some significant structural damage. So we have to be able to respond to things like that. Transportation, of course, that's with the van. And then we have interior operations, not much different from exterior, but again, look at the numbers. We're going all the way down to, we went from TEO or trustee external operations to trustee internal operations. So that's why that looks like that. And then safety. So This is John. This is where all of the sprinklers. This is where we had to come up with some serious
There we go.
policies with the sprinklers. At the site that I work with today, somebody hit one of the sprinkler groups. Our pumps in the building put out 200 psi at 10,000 gallons a minute. They flooded the basement like that. And I said, whoever
I've been hitting
hit that, they were moving some network equipment, and whoever hit it, they lost their job today. So it was crazy.
I had one building to approve, and I tell you, they skipped every other sprinkler and you capped it off. And when I went in for an inspection, the guy said, let's do this one. I said, no.
Mm.
I do the way you do it. I want to do it. That's how we got it.
Oh yeah.
Every other wasn't a head on. Yeah, they just put the cap on.
Just put a cap on it.
Yeah.
They try to
They
gun
want to
that.
light off and set off the one they want to
Yeah.
set off.
If you look at this one is the one that makes me cringe. Internal action team. That is active shooter in the church. So we went to a active shooter. A couple of the trustees went to an active shooter seminar over at the Israeli the synagogue. We did that like a couple of months back, and just kind of sit down. So we sat down through them. They had a lot of questions and things. Because I work at federal facilities, we are constantly going over active shooter drills. It is not something that's pretty, but the issue that we got a brand new shiny building that's going to go up. We're going to attract every type of attitude that you can possibly think of. And just based on the crazy stuff that's happening today in our day and age of everyday life, we don't know what's coming up in there. We're like that pawn shop star. We don't know what's going to come through that door. And we have to be ready. So we are making preparations, talking to DC Police Force. We are trying to get some of them, to come out and just stay in the congregation, because we can't bring any, we're a church. We shouldn't have to do that. But just with all of the things that have been going on, based on FBI statistics, there is a mass shooting in our country every 11.5 days. Every 11.5 days. We've already had, the one last week. And there was one, I think I heard there was one yesterday, kind of a slight one. And that's external to all of the drama that's happening in Chicago. But what the statistics won't say, there's been more gun violence in West Virginia as there is in Chicago, but they're not going to say that. So that's just, yeah. There's more poverty. There's a lot of things that's going on that they will not just talk about. So we have, there's some really serious stuff that we actually have to plan for and put governance policies in place to deal with some of these crazy issues. So if you look at that, that's safety. That's why it's TSO013. So that's the safety stuff. So again, medical, fire, alarm, CPR, critical sign systems. Like our critical systems will be the fire control. Oh, our critical system would be the fire control system, the alarms. There is there's natural gas Generacs in that place. If we lose power, we have to make certain that our critical computer systems, our network systems, our phone systems are on that grid. Because if there's an emergency, we don't want to lose that stuff. So, yeah, electrical signs, and then of course defibrillators. We all know what that is because we do have incidents in church, so we have to be ready for that. So if you look at now, I think I made a couple examples. So that is the one, and then here's the many. So then we go over to engineering, and you see EB1, T017, T05. So from an engineer's perspective, the operations group are going to have to be in some kind of relationship, and that's this K-cell, K1 and 2. And this is not all of them. This is just going through a very few. So We look back at engineering B1, engineering building, and then 12th Street. This is the office here. So now we go to TE015, and so we go back over to '05, and '05 is basically project manager. So a project manager, and this you might come into this. Let's say that I got to put a hole in the table. If this is the engineering staff would have to know why I'm doing it. You have the necessary authorization to do it, or something as simple as we have the steps in the back. We know the steps are going to have to be replaced soon. So from a project manager's perspective, they're going to have to come up with a project scheme of how we're going to replace the steps. The engineer will sit there, and then it's going to go back to the next group. Logistics, you got to pay for it. So that's your one to many relationship. So what this does, this actually, instead of one trustee being, this is the only thing that I do, or this is the only thing I do, we all do it. We all get a chance to kind of get involved with it.
Would it make sense to put together like a process flow diagram, like something you've seen in the video?
Yeah. Actually, that's where actually this is leading up to.
Okay.
So that's a great question. Hey, man, you just gave yourself another action. But yeah, process flow, because that's where I'm more like a really systematic thinker, and I think that we just gotta have folks that think systematically.
Now, one quick thing back to safety, as far as the garage is concerned. It's right there. The church is right there. The garage is right there.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we'll be on the way on the path as far as vehicles that are coming in.
You mean?
Suppose I just want to come in with a couple stick it down right and just park my vehicle.
Security.
That's what I'm saying. That's something odd, just out of order.
I think what's going to happen is, I would imagine that there's going to be a control gate, and we have to probably put that when the security team comes to put the cameras and everything up.
And the person looking at the vehicle is coming in.
Right. There's going to be cameras, but it's probably, I envision them actually having a key code or a swipe card or something like that, a proximity system that will say, that's your car. I'll drive up to it, the gate lifts and closes, or the whole door comes back down. Because, right, if somebody wants to pack a car full of explosive, drive it in there,
and just walk away.
right. Yeah, so we're going to have, and that's where, again, I think we have under our external operations, exterior parking should consist of governor's procedures for church parking or spaces. And then parking enforcement was actually there too. Here it is. Should consist of governor's procedures for parking enforcement of church parking spaces. But this is also going to apply to EBO, because they're going through the same door, I believe. The main door. So they're going to have to come up with something, and we're going to have to come up with something. The thing is that we were supposed to have call it the line of demarcation meeting. It's like, what is EBO and what belongs to the church? That was supposed to happen last week. They moved it back to March the 6th. So I'll when I go to that one, I'll let everyone know what's kind of going on. And then, if you guys, I'll send the invite out. You guys are more than welcome, because again, this thing is that I think in the past, there was only a few people that knew what was going on. We're going to change that. Everybody gonna know.
Speaking about the security, the security, are we setting up the security cameras that we can monitor on our phones? So limited
Can you speak up something?
Say again. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Say it again.
Are we setting up a security cameras that we can monitor on our smartphones?
That would be a serious requirement. I think that's something where the question was, are we going to set up a security system where we can monitor all of the
inside and outside.
inside and outside, like camera systems and things like that from our smartphones? I'm hoping so. There was a part of the discussion with the EBO that I wanted to have was say, okay, we know that we have to use a computer controlled system to detect problems that let's say if an air handler goes out inside of the apartment complex and they're sweating and they don't have any AC and it's 90 degrees outside, they're going to call somebody and that will create a workflow, a process workflow. And then that from that process workflow, people will be called, people will be notified, that automatic systems will be able to be tracking across. So that same type of system would handle if I look at my cell phone and I get an alert that I can hit boom and I can see a camera. That's kind of what we want. We don't, we have not had those discussions yet. That's something that again, we were supposed to have that discussion last week, and that's something I'm going to bring up because I think with again with this day and age, with all of the stuff that's going on, we got to be able to secure that building with the latest technology.
That's a lot
Yes,
of
I'm sharing this because I have mines. Like I set up a security camera at home. I can monitor
Right.
the place on the camera. Like the sound a while ago.
Mhm.
So it's a motion detection.
Oh, and that's the light. And
Yes.
that was
I
your
know
light.
it kept lighting up, and I
Yeah.
wanted to question you about the rules and reasons because I didn't want people to flash in my picture.
Well, I was getting pulled over by the police.
Yeah. Well, Mike is the police.
Exactly.
Don't let him fool you. This young man has skills. But that is a great question, and that's something that I will definitely address with you. Yeah.
Anywhere we are,
We can stay. We can monitor.
Those maybe those for the vital area
Mhm.
inside
Right.
and out.
Right. Yeah, because and then the other thing I was even suggesting, I said, you know how they have those blue pull boxes
Right.
where if somebody, if somebody gets in a situation, there's always that blue box
Right.
with the blue light. It has it's directly towards the police. So we need something like that
You see
probably
them
more
on
than
Metro.
too. Yeah, you see them you see them in parking lots, you see them in schools. We probably need something like that. Yeah, and that was actually a poem item because the AV company are basically going to put in. They were saying Cisco devices. That was part of it, and I'm like, that's a good product, Cisco. Everybody uses Cisco, so that divide the signals from that pull system, the signals from the camera are going to go to a Cisco switch and then out to everybody. So that would be that's why they would need to know how to monitor that stuff. So that's where that's coming from. So getting back with the engineering, so I'll just go over another one. We have uh, the spaces. Well, first of all, we have these are all of the buildings. Of course, the 12th Street, Pawnee Branch, any other, Mount Calvary, that other church is down on the 15th Street, off 15th. That's another one. The church, the gym, the community center. These are all of the spaces that we have to actually deal with. I know the transitional and the senior housing, that's on EBO's radar, but we still have to know what they're doing on their end. And then we go down and we say, again, more spaces, the gym, the offices, and then, the thing is what do we do? As far as spaces are concerned from an engineer's perspective, and I'm glad, Mr. John, you're here, everything is all about capacity. If we're over capacity, the fire marshal will shut us down in a heartbeat.
I still have old bag.
Yeah. So that's why we have to. That's one of the reasons why we kind of have to know about the capacity, the limit, and because we have to follow, like it says, federal, state, and local codes for operations. So this is going to be, more policies. We're probably going to have more policies to develop them or at least get them in place. And we got to start now because we got 10 months.
Roads and
Yeah.
places like that they want to have large part of
Right.
kind of like getting a little leeway on the film, and we don't leave the body outside.
Yeah, don't want anybody to do it. But the whole thing about this is that if we have any liable incident in any of our spaces, somebody slips and trips, the first thing they're going to say, "Are you covered? Show me your policy." So we got to have that in place. So we're taking a tour of hotel services. Basically, this is electrical service, sewage, gas, water, phone, internet, cable, satellite. Again, the engineering people that are responsible for that are going to have to know. And again, here's that one-to-many relationship. The operations guys are going to have to know what the engineers are doing. And so we go down the list: high power heating systems, backup generation, low level electric. Uh, this is all of our. We just talked about the Cisco. We talked about network equipment and that stuff. So those are the relationships. And so I'm still working on, and of course the church band. So I'm working on trying to get a young man in here that has an engineering background, and so he can kind of take the lead for all of the system engineering. So
That would be nice. That all get a place for what's going on.
exactly. So we really have to. I mean, we really gotta help each other. So it won't be everybody on the board will be hopefully actively engaged to the point where it can. I mean, this is a lot of fun. It's exciting. It's a lot of work, but it's also like, wow, things that we may not have thought about because we didn't have this huge monstrosity in the old building. It was just the main thing we worried about was mice, the clean kitchen, and the rainwater that used to come from the ceiling all the time. So we got a whole new ball of wax. And this is the first time in the history of this church since 1832 that anybody's done anything like that. So
And then we got to step up with traffic.
yeah,
Because all the residents that are coming, they either may not go already to the church, they will be coming into
the area. Yeah.
into the area. So they come in and the friends come in.
And this is the logistics. So we have supply chain management, and that's going to be a really important area right now because we have to be able to. We don't know how much equipment or supplies we need to have right now. So we gotta come up with simulations. I think we have to say, okay, if we have a church population at one service that we have 200 parishioners and we have people that during the summertime that's going to be drinking a lot of water, how much soap do we need to have in the restrooms? How much tissue paper and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So that's where the simulation. So I'm looking for like some kind of simulation, and they have them. The best people that might know this are probably in the hotel industry. So they're going to know that. So I'm trying to get somebody in the hotel industry to help us out too. So the thing is that we want to be able to use the natural talents of people on the board to help us out because again, this is one big house, one big building, and we have all sorts. Everybody here has a different core area of expertise, and now we just bring that to the table and put it in one big basket, and we got I think we'll have a pretty efficient board on. We just got to kind of keep that in the back of our minds. So
Hopefully, in the initial part, I can include a couple of inspectors.
we need all the help we can
I
get.
mean, just to keep us on top. Even some of the stuff that they'd be coming to look for. Most of it I know, but sometimes if you got your friend inside, it's better than having them outside.
Yeah.
So if and invite them in.
Well, this
do that.
one of the gents is like I said with the building, that building engineering background, the efficiency, that would be that's the one that keeps hitting me is this environmental stuff. I mean, that will definitely shut us down because I've already with the battleground being like right beside us, if a blade of trash or some grass gets out of place, those people are going to be on us.
Right.
Yeah. So
What's our traffic area on this whole kind of country?
they probably have to take a study because we know we're going to get a lot more traffic.
But nothing is going to lead to any of the building. The garage come in on the parking lot.
So I got cut off, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking there, as we look at it now, let's say we look at it now, there's traffic that goes through it. So I was wondering, so we shouldn't even see the cars parked back there. Like we use the park on it. So that's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that means it's a good thing.
That might increase once the church. I mean
It might be through use. It's not a thoroughway. It doesn't go all the way through. Well, I normally if it's an open space and there's no space in the garage, they would park there. And we always had the problem of don't park on the park.
right.
Being that it's a new building and we've had problems with the park, they're gonna come up there with everything they can throw at us. You have your car parked over there on the park side, or it's too close to where we can park before. Before we had the building stuff going up or ready to go up, we had a little relationship. They'll ride around, but you can't leave your car parked over there. Our problem was, they parked over there and they said, well, you're messing up the grass.
Yeah.
Just to have something, and they're gonna come after.
Yeah.
Even the residents.
We probably. I mean, there is a group that we can go to and actually all they do all day is collect data. So I'm quite sure that they probably have they can put a truck out there or a person and they just basically run a sample of traffic flow and we can get that data. They're probably already doing it. But we probably need that study done so we can actually determine, their capacity and how it's going to affect us. Because the thing is that
we build a church, the road is not absolute to us.
yeah, I'm talking about the one that's going up into the where the garage is going to be. You're talking about the Quackenboss. That's going to be a traffic. That's going to be a big traffic jam.
I'm talking about the road that goes. The road that goes behind the apartment.
On
it doesn't go through
the other side, the back
but
end.
the police wants it. They like to have it. It's they'll shoot all the way around, right over around that park. If something happens, it goes down.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they space those rocks and just enough for a car to go through. And I've driven all the way through and come across on the other side.
But it goes down a hill.
But I don't go down the hill. You go
around. I don't know. I don't
come down because I've driven a couple of times, but only to carry stuff.
Do we have to you think we had to put a barrier back there?
You can't.
Cut.
We can't. It's city property. And that's actually Pine Grant Road, even though it doesn't go all the way across. Mm. But we can't do anything about it because the city now we made a petition the city that the park isn't coming on. And they don't have a roadway. That's the only road that they have to come up. They come up and unload something. They use that road. That's the park on the park user. So they're using what the city is there. We had to go through the ward council for a long time before we could get it paid, just so we could come up with it.
But I don't think it's still there though. Yeah.
Well, the road's there because I can drive all the way up to where we go.
It just goes up and then it stops. It doesn't go all the way through.
No, it hasn't gone through. But that portion of it is still Piney Branch Road, and it's on the map as Piney Branch.
I'm trying to visualize. I would have to really see it.
Okay. When you turn into the church, where you turn up into the parking lot,
right?
it basically ends there.
Right. where the dumpsters used
Where
to
the dumpster is there, that paved part is city property. That paved road is city road.
be. Hmm.
Anytime it needs to be repaved, you gotta go to the city.
Hmm.
And they will do it according to whenever they want to do it.
That's why we had to put bricks out there because of the truck, the dump trucks. Remember all the bricks inside of the
Right,
potholes?
because the dump truck was the one that caused the damage.
Right.
But what I was saying that we would park our cars up and down that strip, down the road.
I don't know if that's going to be allowed
And I
anymore.
don't think so either. I don't think it's.
We're going to have to control that. That won't be allowed because we have to have the ability to quickly egress.
The sign should be saying no parking.
Yeah, we'll put it
And
there.
as soon as we get, city put it no parking, then the resident won't come and park their cars behind that building.
I mean, the main thing with that, we just let the DC towing parking enforcement know, and they will just sit out there and make a lot of money that day, and they won't do it. So we'll put it out. Don't park there. We'll put it out on the church website and word of mouth and signage. And if they park there, that's on them. We will do our due diligence. That's what I recommend. Do our due diligence to let folks know. And if they park there, hey, it's on them. So that's basically the one to many relationship. And what I'll do is I'll continue to chop away at it and put verbiage in there, just quick statements, because I'm thinking for a lot of this, we're really going to have to come up with a couple of high level bullets in the form of, yeah, this is our procedure or how we want to do this. And we kind of write it a little vague, but enough where we can understand, because we don't want to get bogged down with a lot of documents. We just kind of have to put it in a, almost like the way that the trustee, um, not the trustee roadmap, but the roles and responsibilities of the trustee as far as what we're supposed to do. We'll probably put it like in a format like that. So that's where our legal beagles will kind of look through it, and I'm trying to get somebody that has a law background on the board as well to kind of help us out with that type of stuff. But that's where that's going. So let's get, it's almost 9 o'clock. I didn't want to go this, but we'll go over the next thing will be the back on the heel plan. And
Hey, Ray.
yes.
Audrey.
Hey, Audrey.
Could I ask a question? Hey, Timmy. Maybe I missed this. What is the capacity of the church? The capacity?
I noticed
Capacity?
that I think the sanctuary holds 500, but I'll put an action for myself to find out the exact numbers, because we definitely going to need to know as far as the capacity of the multi-purpose room, the gym, the kitchen, the main sanctuary. We have to probably have signage for that, and those are some of the questions that I had to come up with the PM once we have our meeting. I had a whole bunch of questions written out, but I'll include that and send that stuff over to everyone so you can take a look at it and then add to it. But yeah, that's definitely a great question, because again, that's just some of the things we're going to have to really know about, immediately. So what this is basically the
I have a quick question.
okay.
Is the handicap accessible? Handicap accessible?
Yes, they actually have handicap accessibility there. There's special elevators that the elevators aren't in place, but the shafts are definitely a little larger than the normal elevator shaft that's in the building, and they are apparently they're at a higher lift capacity, because what kind of surprised me is that there's no freight elevator um, being installed, but the elevators were supposed to be able to have the capacity to lift the casket, and we know that caskets are relatively heavy. Um, The other thing is that I was talking to the guys. I said, I do we have like a grand PM?
We don't have them, man. I don't know. We didn't put one away.
Those things are pretty heavy, and I don't know if
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how they're going to get it. If they want a grand piano in there, I don't know how they're going to get it inside of there right now.
Sideways, straight up.
Really? Okay. I guess the doors are big enough.
Is Pastor at this meeting?
No, he's not. But we're recording everything, so we can have those. I'll go through it and have a list of action items. The questions to ask.
Oh. Oh, the.
Say again.
I'm saying, would Troy know if you have a grand piano or not?
But maybe the baby man.
Maybe it's a big. I don't know. I just it was just something I was thinking about because sometimes I have the tendency to overthink things. So, but
Oh, the people using the elevators to get to the sanctuary will be the same elevator used to bring supplies in also.
yeah, there's I saw 2 shafts, but there might be 4. But I have to look at the actual church diagrams to make certain.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, they're like I said, they don't have like a freight elevator per se, but there is a loading dock. So I'm thinking where that loading dock is, around that area, that's where we're probably going to have our primary staging area when we start moving stuff back on the hill, and then we bring in supplies for the church. We just have to figure that out.
Okay.
So that actually leads up to our get back on the hill plan. So I just put together some really high level line items to kind of give us an idea of, and I'll make this big, kind of give us an idea of what we have to look for. So the duration and the date is basically from last week until the 1st of October. Let's just say the 1st of October is when everything has to be, when we be moving in. The crazy part about it, if you look at it, we only have 163 days from the 15th of February. Now already 5 days have expired because today is the 20th. So the whole thing behind this is that we got to really come up with a plan and with all of the ministries to do this. So I went to a church council meeting. The first one was, I guess it was back in January. And it was a bunch of, everybody was sitting there, we're talking about all this stuff, and they said, well, we had to come up with a critical path. And I said, well, one of my biggest concerns was since we moved off the hill, now we got to move back on it. And we got to find out so many different things that that has to be done. But the thing is, we got to start planning this now as opposed to later, because if we do it closer to October, or we started, oh, let's start working on it in the summer, that building might be done in August. So we need to start planning now and getting our ducks in a row. Yeah. So that's what this is. So what? Okay. So what I'll do is I will again. This is on the site. Yeah. This is on the
You're
website.
breaking up on me.
Oh, sorry. This is on the.
That's okay.
I can hear you clearly. This is on the our SharePoint site as well. Um, I will. It's being managed by Microsoft Project, but this is a PDF file, so I can send this out. It would probably be best if we ran through this live with everyone on board, and that's the other ministries as well, to kind of go through this to make certain that this is one has to be in order, and 2, we got to make certain that we got captured everything. So I would like for you guys to really take a look at this thing and to make some serious comments, because this is I think it's 103 things that we have to do so far. Yeah, 102, but it might be more. And this is basically goes out from 6 months before move-in day, 2 months before move-in day, uh, 1 month before, and then we get down to the critical tasks is like, 3 weeks before and then moving day. So as an example for the folks that can't see because I'm having some crazy technical issues, 6 months before moving day, review inventory list of key needs that must be met by the new office or the new inside of the new area. And then inventory existing office furniture. We have to do that. And then we have to see what we put in storage. And then we have to make certain that kind of do a survey. And then we got to build a staging area for all of this stuff. And then each and every ministry will have to be involved. So I don't even know how many resources we're going to need. I don't know how many resources was used to take the stuff out, but I think there was a lot of people involved. So we're gonna have to really. I'll hit the church council with this list. I'll send it out to them and say, guys, let us know if this is what we want to do, and then we got to take action for it, like as soon as possible to start planning it out.
So when we get this equipment back, hopefully we'll be able to move it, but we won't be able to move it right into the space, some of it.
That's why I'm thinking. My thought process was to have a staging area in the
Right.
there's if you go through the garage, there was this large area where and it's already a control fence around it, but that's where all of the vital systems are coming into it. That would be a perfect place to put it. And we're talking maybe not the electronics because of the sensitivity and moisture, but hopefully one of the rooms, well, all the rooms are going to be built out, but we'll pick one or two primary office areas and say, this belongs to this ministry, this belongs to this ministry, you guys go ahead. And then we got to actually, another thing we have to do is assign rooms to these people. And we got to assign rooms like the children's choir might have this room, or the band might have that room, and then they take their equipment and put it in respectively. Now, we won't be in charge of how they put it in there in their own space. Once it's in their own space and behind their locked door, it's on them. But we will be responsible to put it in the staging area. That's what I'm thinking.
That might possibly be in the gym.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking gym space. Yeah, I guess they might put bicycles in there, like gym equipment.
Plenty of space in there.
Yeah. So I went into the gym. When you look at it, it's a half court gym, but it's a big space, but still, it's going to be. I can see a lot of different types of events happening in there. So we got a lot of planning to do. These dates are not by any means cut in stone. This is just high level. I'm like, well, it might take us this long. It might take us that long.
It's just a starting point.
Just a starting point. That's all it is. Right? It's just a starting point. But it would be great again if you guys kind of go through it, think about it, and then add more to it if we need it, because I didn't want to make it so complex. But then again, we're talking about we're going to be moving artwork, we're going to be moving instruments, we're going to be moving food supply, we're going to be moving all kinds of stuff back into that church. And again, like I said, this is the first time in over 186 some odd years that this was done, other than the Civil War when the Union forces took over. So I don't think we can ask those people. So we got there's a lot of stuff going on. But for those of you online, we're looking at a PDF file of about 102 line items of stuff that we have to do. So, for instance, we're looking at 1 day to 3 weeks before move-in, assign phone numbers, and that's going to be something that Corolla would probably be interested in. But inventory existing computers, like I guess they're going to move all of this stuff in there. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that, but we got to figure out some kind of way. This huge printer got inside of this room. Now we got to figure out where we're going to move this thing back into the building and how are we going to move it. So we're going to have hiring company or moving companies to hire them, and then the logistics folks and the finance team are going to have to say, oh, okay, well, we got to pay these people. Like Fred, I don't know if you would be involved in setting up the contract. I know you probably would. That shouldn't be us. But yeah, you guys still online? Okay.
I am.
Yeah, I'll just wait till this phone finishes ringing. Probably go to somebody's answering service. Yes, this just went. So, for instance, this another thing this has is like create Office extension directory. You know, that's something that the current Office team would have to do. So we don't have to be involved with much of that stuff, but you know, our involvement is really going to come in the first, I would say, the first 2 pages. Uh, for instance, here's another good one. Like 2 months before move-in day, phones, communication systems, network systems. That's where the vendor is going to come in. But again, we got to plan for it. You know, we gotta let them know because everything is that flow chart. You know, all of the dependencies and the predecessors and everything that has to happen first, second, and third.
So, 2 items that kind of jump out.
Mhm.
Obtain estimates from contracts for moving support.
All right.
Prepare a budget for the move. Are those areas of our responsibility or is that the finance?
I think that's going to be finance, but again, this whole chart is just not for us. This is for
It's just everything is.
yeah. They said they I was tasked. They said, can you put together a you know critical path? And I said, oh, okay. I mean, I do that all day anyway. You know, put together critical
I'll
paths.
slap you all together.
Yeah. So that's what that is. So. But yeah, I'll send this thing out. Please put your and I'll put it in an Excel format that way because I know everybody doesn't have Microsoft Project, so I'll save it in Excel and then send it out. It's like oh yeah.
I do it.
Don't worry, Mrs. We're gonna get you. I keep telling you about it. By the time this ends, you're gonna have an Amazon Web Service instance.
I'm still with the chisel.
No, we go. And again, the whole
Microsoft certified. Right?
yeah, exactly. The whole thing about technology. I know a lot of people may not do this type of stuff every day, but I love to show folks stuff. I use YouTube a lot on trying to learn this stuff, so it's not if I can get it, anybody can, because I'm a rock. So please don't be afraid of technology. Embrace it. I mean, we're going to really try to use it to our full advantage. So yeah. But and like I said, if you got questions or you want hit me up, shoot me an email, and then we got a lot of tech savvy folks in the church and on the board as well. So don't be shy. Don't no question is a crazy question. So it's the ones that you don't answer because you might I don't know. Like Fred would sit there and say, well, I know that my defense is not as I was like, Fred, come on now, your defense is jacked up on the Giants. So okay,
it's the offensive line.
You're right. So the thing is, so please never be afraid to answer any questions. When it comes to this stuff, we're all learning it. This is the first time that we've all been involved with a massive effort like this. So really appreciate everybody's help so
when
far.
you dump it in Excel,
Yes, sir.
can you highlight which ones we would be responsible for, which ones we would be involved in?
I thought I had that. That's what it is. It's hidden, but there was another row that had resources.
Okay.
And the way I did the resources was, you need laptops? We can get you laptops. Yeah, we can. We can get you. We can get your laptop. We can get you anything you need. Who else needs laptops?
I've been setting my computer on my lap,
Really?
using this so I can say I have a laptop.
Let's see. I think I have this on. I want to say. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it, man. I've been running my mouth all day. Woo! So now I didn't know it was this thing.
Next time I'll bring my desktop.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to find the actual.
Oh,
If you go to libraries, documents, information, and you hit type, PDF, maybe I didn't put it, I don't think I put it in here. I thought I did, but I didn't. I put it in a Microsoft project format. Yeah, I'll put it on there. I have it on another computer. That's what it is. But I think this whole document was oh, for the what's this for?
so just this site.
Yeah. Okay. But I had all of the resources on there.
Yeah, I know how on this project.
Yeah. So yeah, I have all the resources in there. I'm trying to get back to where I was at. Yeah. There it is. Okay. So I have all the resources and the duration. Yeah, the duration is there, resources. And there was the predecessors were there too, because when this thing is actually all said and done, we're gonna see like a sheet. I wonder why it only printed. We're gonna see like a workflow of first, second, third, fourth magnitude, and then all of the line items that are joined to it. So, but I'll send that out. Yeah. So, anybody have any questions or comments? I know it's getting a little late, and don't want to spend up too much time.
Hello, guys.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Not too bad.
Good.
Hey, did anybody, I just wondered, did anybody mention anything about the trustee team, maybe being able to take a tour of the instruction site?
Well, I did it with the. With the first group, but yeah, we probably need to do that too.
Yeah, I think if more people got the opportunity to see exactly what you're talking about, it may help them, it may help. And allows us that with, the curiosity of seeing how things are looking
Yeah.
also.
I will also put some. I took a whole bunch of pictures. I'll put them on the SharePoint site too. And I was trying to put some film of it. I sent out a. I sent out a movie about it.
Yeah, we said it when we can.
I put it on the actual. It's called Go Meet Me. What is that thing called? Group Me.
Group me.
Group Me. I put it on Group Me, but you should have.
Yeah, it's on group me.
Yeah. So I'll send it out again.
Yeah,
Mhm.
groupme.com.
Is that it? No, that's not it.
Group me?
Yeah. It's when I send out those text messages. But I'll send the pictures out again. Yeah, I'll send all that stuff out.
Okay.
Okay. So we got a few action items. One was definitely send out some more pictures. Two was to figure out if we set up a tour for all the trustees to check out the site. What was another action item? I got everybody looking at text messages right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. You sent out a video, so
Oh yeah, I sent out a video.
So I'm trying.
I might as well do the same thing.
Short video.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I'll send out some of the pictures.
Yes.
Yeah, check these out. So this was
Wow.
you see that? So that's like some of the
Look the archive.
yeah, here it is. This one right here. So like the guy, we're looking at a picture of I took a kind of a aerial picture of the ceiling, and I sent that picture out to the audio visual team to see what they got to work with, because that's like ain't no way they're gonna be able to put any support poles in that ceiling without putting a substantial network of supports in there.
And also, so you have the audio.
No, we were actually talking about that earlier, Tim. I'm recording the session, so I'll send that out. We have not heard any feedback from the audio visual company. I think they're really. I'm hoping that they're like, oh wow, we really got to step up our game now. I'm hoping they have like a what I call a aha moment, because we're going to need those people. We're going to need those people to really provide, we're paying them a lot of money, and they need to really need to coordinate with the builders and the electrician team to put this stuff up, because once, I think they were thinking that, oh yeah, we're going to put, 5 poles up in the ceiling. We're going to put a couple of little small video cameras. And then next thing you know, when it's a bright sunshiny day and we're trying to look at that Media Shout app, we won't be able to see anything because the cameras aren't going to be strong enough.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, so yeah, but that is, we have, like I said, we haven't heard from them yet, and I do have a action to hit those folks up. I try to hit them up every week, and the pastor's doing the same thing as well.
Okay.
Any more questions or comments from anyone?
This is Angie. No, not at the time.
Hey Angie, thanks for joining us too. We're gonna put everything in your plate. be careful what you wish for.
I didn't wish for anything. I'm just doing my part.
Oh, that's cool.
But I'm just doing my part.
Hey, we really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Fred is rubbing his lower lip. Looks like Fred is in deep thought. He's like, I love it. This is awesome. I love it. So, I guess this kind of concludes our meeting. We'll send out, I'll put the meeting notes and stuff on the SharePoint site as far as the actions. And I'll also put out I'll make hopefully this thing is still recording. I'll make a YouTube video of our meeting and send it out to everybody so we can kind of remind ourselves of what we do. It'll be just like the video that we use to record how to use SharePoint, something very similar. So Denise is smiling, and she's like, "Oh, what do you think, Denise?" Huh? No. It's not. It's YouTube. You can just go. Yeah, you just look at it on YouTube. I'll show you. It'll be really cool.
You keep telling me you're gonna show me.
I'm gonna show you. Well, you. This is the SharePoint site you're looking at now. This is SharePoint. This is our individual. We use CCB. That's the primary one. But for what we kind of have to do, CCB might not be strong enough for us right now. So we'll eventually. This is what's called a working website. CCB is a more of like this is where we're going to store all of our official documents. So I'll just transfer everything over once we get through with this. So we use this like surge support. But this is the log on stuff I sent you. This is this is what it does. So your actual view now from your optic, your view is you'll see this is the home. You'll see get back on the hill, and you'll see meeting. But I wanted to separate the audio visual stuff, and all the chair is basically, I would sit there, throw something on there, and like and make changes to it and put it on so it's like a dump area. I make changes to it and then I put it into the other folder. So that's what this is. But like this one right here, this would be specifically for the folks on the audio visual team. So that's why we got the soundboard. Hopefully we get a soundboard that looks like that. So that's top of the line stuff. So that's the particular soundboard that you can operate it from a smartphone and a tablet because the biggest issue that the guys were having or currently having now is that where our board is positioned. Remember when the soundboard was on the side? They couldn't hear anything. That's why the sound was always all over the place. So now we slid it down to almost center, but there's still like a parallax area because the speakers are coming this way, but you're over here. So that's why they're constantly moving around, and you'll see Isaiah walking around with a sound meter because we had to keep the decibel levels down at no greater than 105 dB, something like that.
Yeah.
Because if it's any louder, you start actually having ear damage. So if you notice, the musicians they talk loud, but they got a threshold shift in their hearing because they're exposed to such loud dB levels. So
that's why some people don't sit towards the front.
right, because it's so sometimes it's not loud. It's loud because I feel the vibrations. Sound is something else. So that's why they're walking around and said, you guys gotta turn the sound down because especially with the little kids in front, their threshold is totally different from ours, where they can hear things that really irritate them. Yeah, they will start complaining. So a perfect example, if you've ever noticed when you go down to Gallery Place where they have the theater and they have speakers on the outside and they actually send out a signal that's about 25,000 megahertz. It's a pitching, whiny noise that keeps the teenagers from congregating down there because they can hear it, but we can't. And they hate it. They like, I don't need to stay around here. But that's what they're doing. They're using sound as as a deterrent. Now the other thing is that you heard about the issue where it came up in CNN a couple of months ago where they were using sound down in Cuba. They were directing the sound towards it was making people's eardrums pop. So yeah. And 120 will pop your eardrums. Yeah. So we gotta be that's why we need to have this expensive equipment so we won't mess around. Because again, we go in there and some person be like, oh, my ears are hurting and I'm going to sue. And that's oh, they got money. They built that new. They must have some money, and that's what we got to kind of look forward to. So we have to think street now. We got to think that they want to sue. They might want to do something crazy. We got to be prepared for everything. So that's the bottom line. Yeah. So we got to anticipate everything. So I guess with that said, any questions or comments? Looks like I said we got our work cut out for it, but I think we definitely got the people here that can get the stuff squared away. So I guess that's it. So shall we end on the word of prayer? Anybody volunteers? Any volunteers for praying us out? Scott, join hands. Fred. There you go. Thank you, Fred.
Father God, thank you for bringing us here tonight, safe and sound. May you give us traveling mercies as we leave here today. Thank you for bringing us together to help discuss going forward and fulfilling your mission, to getting us back to our new facility and moving back to our new church space. And we thank you for all the wonderful ideas that we shared with each other this evening, all the questions that were asked. And we thank you for our team leader tonight that put together this whole entire objective. Without you, Lord, we can't accomplish anything. So we thank you for being in the midst of our actual meeting tonight. I'll finish this prayer by saying hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And amen.
Amen.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Again, I'll send this information out either later on tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow because I gotta get something. I gotta get something to eat. Okay, yeah, I have not forgot about you. It's just been so crazy. So I know.
Hello, Audrey.
Okay, night. Thanks for joining us. Okay.
Okay then. Take care.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye. Man, I gotta figure out. So stop recording.
You didn't log in? No, I think it was my phone. Where is it that you stopped at? Where do you stop at? Let's just say.
Because
That's not bad. Must be missing.